everyone, today I've got your top worst films of 2016, and although it is now the new year, let's look back at some of the worst films of last year, and I do only have my top 10, so I actually didn't get a chance to review quite a lot of films that I wanted to see, but if you guys still want to see some of the things that I haven't, let me know which ones you want to see, and I will be sure to get them out as soon as possible. So for starters, my number 10 worst film of 2016 is When the Bough Breaks. Now, this is a movie that I knew was going to be disappointing from the start. I actually thought it was going to be at least a decent movie, but the concept just didn't really impress me that much. It was way too cliche because you've got the hot chick who has gotten pregnant with in vitro fertilization, and now she's gone psycho crazy, and then she wants the baby daddy of, this baby, and it was a crazy movie, and I just could not get into it whatsoever, and it just didn't impress me that much, and I feel like it's a movie I have seen several times before, even though the scenario was always different. I just did not like it whatsoever. For my number 9 worst film of 2016, it is for Gods of Egypt. Now, I actually am a fan of ancient Egypt and all that stuff, but this movie just totally took it in a completely wrong direction. And I think what killed it was the fact that there was just an overblown usage of CGI. The acting just was subpar. I mean, Gerard Butler and Nikolai Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, and you've got the whitewashing factor to go along with it. It just did not impress me. It didn't seem culturally accurate and mythically accurate, to say the least. So I was not impressed with it. It was one of my disappointments of this year, and I doubt I'll see it again. It just will have to die. For my number 8 worst film of 2016, it is for Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. Now, I wanted to see this because I myself was in a sorority, so I wanted to see how are Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne going to deal with having a sorority living next door to them after they had to deal with Zac Efron and his frat brothers in the previous film. Now, this movie was really disappointing to me because it was the same overblown, just nonstop, unfunny jokes that I really felt like they could have redeemed themselves from the first movie and actually made it funnier, but it just did not, give off any laughs for me. So I absolutely hated this movie, and I probably won't see it again, to say the least. I'll probably go back to watching Neighbors, because at least that had some hot guys, like Zac Efron. So I'm down for that. For my number 7 worst film of 2016, it is for How to Be Single. Now, this movie, if I recall, I gave this a flat out 0. And if I didn't, shame on me, because this movie, looking back at it, it was terrible from the start because it had terrible acting, including Rebel Wilson, Dakota Johnson, and I just couldn't stand this whole concept of a film and all these girls just like going out living the life and yay, embrace being single when you could actually try to be in a relationship but not look desperate, which is how they were in this movie. So I am glad that I hate it. I'm glad that I probably won't see it again. So this movie can also die. Now, for my number 6 worst film of 2016, it is for a movie that I had actually just recently seen last month, and it was Bad Santa 2. Now, I only reviewed it because, it was getting into the spirit of the holiday season, and I had previously seen Bad Santa, which I reviewed for my 25 Days of Christmas reviews a couple years ago, and this movie was literally, there was no point in this movie having a sequel. It was just raunchy, it was vulgar. I mean, yeah, it's Bad Santa, of course he's going to act like that, but it was just too much to handle, and I feel like they could have toned it down a little bit, even though they did try to have some lighthearted moments in here, but it really got overshadowed by all of the stupidity of Billy Bob Thornton as Santa. And what he was really using with his jingle balls. For my number 5 worst film of 2016, it is for Something Strange in the Neighborhood. Do you know what I'm talking about? I am talking about the Ghostbusters remake with an all-female cast directed by Paul Feig and starring actresses like Melissa McCarthy and Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon. I couldn't stand this movie. A lot of people hated the first trailer when it came out. It was one of the worst trailers on YouTube and one of the most viewed trailers on YouTube. And then the movie came out and I was just like, I'm already done with this movie. Please let it go away. It didn't help that Bill Murray had a cameo appearance in it, because what's the point? This movie just had everything. It tried to have some nostalgia, but it really just didn't work. And I think that's why this movie sucked in the end. Like, not a lot of people appreciated what they were trying to accomplish, but it really wasn't sending the right message to anyone. And I would have preferred to see the original cast come back. Is tragically not with us anymore, but I think it still would have been nice to not make it so stupidly funny. And I think I hate comedies like that nowadays anyway. And speaking of remakes, my number 4 worst film of 2016 is Ben-Hur. Now, I know a lot of people wanted me to check out the original 3-hour version of the film, and of course I was like, I just want to see the remake for now. I'll go back to watching the original if I have 3 hours to spare. But I know that at least that movie would be much better than this, because it just felt like a Gladiator ripoff, and because obviously Gladiator came out after Ben-Hur, and a lot of movies were remade after this one, and this one came out with just a horrible cast, and it didn't help that even the actors who I considered to be decent actors, like Morgan Freeman, to be completely overshadowed by the stupidity of the action sequences. The just slowness of the film did not impress me whatsoever, and I think that's what made it even worse to watch. So, good thing I won't have to waste my time watching it again. For my number 3 worst film of 2016, it is for Norm of the North. Now, this movie actually came out a year ago in January, and it's one of those forgettable films that I'm like, okay, I know it's an animated film with a polar bear going into the big city, but then I'm like, okay, then what else happens? This movie, at the time, did not like it because, it's one of those throwaway animated films that I felt like there really wasn't a point to it being made in the first place. It really wasn't funny at all. I've only already seen enough movies about animals going into the big city, trying to make a name for themselves or getting lost in it altogether. But this one, I guess they felt like it was supposed to be different. And it was different because it was forgettable. For my number 2 worst film of 2016, it is for Bad Moms. I didn't really like this film because, I would say that it wasn't technically the actress's fault, like Mila Kunis or Christina Applegate, even though I would say she was one of the worst parts of the film. But I felt like this movie, the concept of being a bad mom, just not doing what you're normally doing, then all of a sudden you're like, screw this, I'll take the kids to school, but then I'm going out partying, getting drunk, having house parties without permission, and probably hitting on guys that, I won't see again the next morning. So it was just one of those movies that I feel like tarnished, what, it means to be a mom, and then all of a sudden you go bad, and then people hate you for it. And I just could not stand this movie. I'm pretty sure I gave this a flat out 0 too. it's one of the worst movies this year because it didn't really send a strong message to anybody. And unlike Ghostbusters, who was all about trying to empower women, but it just didn't work here, and it could have gone a whole lot better. So for my number one worst film of 2016 is 9 Lives. Now, I'm a huge cat person. I love cats and animals in general, and this movie I did find to be a slightly funny movie only because Kevin Spacey turned into a cat. But then after that, it all went away because I wasn't as excited about what was all going on in between scenes, and seeing the poorly written script, the poor acting, the animation and the CGI, and all these other scenes where there's this bad guy in the office trying to take over, and Kevin Spacey just so happens to not have can't do anything about it because he's coughing up furballs left and right, as well as trying to make amends with his family and have a better relationship with them. And although it seems to have this sort of It's a Wonderful Life feel to it, it just doesn't seem as wonderful when it's just not as funny, but it's just not one of those movies for me. And I was actually really disappointed in this because I was hoping that it at least would be a decent film. That was my list. You guys can check out my best list of 2016 and let me know in the comments what you guys have as your worst films of 2016. And as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates coming every week for a Trial Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, and I will see you guys later.